Claw by Kara. In light of the latest story shared by Dennis Chu in 8 Days, it reminded me of a couple of incidents that happened to me at East Coast when I was much younger, and I'd like to share one of them today. Gentle disclaimer, this is one of those quite visually disturbing, and if you are easily queasy, maybe give this one a miss. Part 1, East Coast. This happened at the end of year 2000 when I was still a teenager and a bunch of my schoolmates decided to spend the night at East Coast to party the night away. It was a fairly large group of maybe 20 plus people, and we had a great time just reveling in the thought that school was over for the year. I remember it was sometime in the wee hours when my schoolmates decided to kill some time, and one of them came up with the idea of playing catching amongst the nearby trees. For safety reasons, some of the older siblings insisted that we run and hide together in groups, while the catcher went about looking for us. On hindsight, it was a terrible idea because East Coast back then was not as quite well lit as it is today, and for the most part, none of us really knew the area well, especially in the dark. I recall, as the game started, I was feeling very apprehensive. I never enjoyed the game catching anyway, but the atmosphere was charged with excitement, and we soon got caught up trying to find the best spot to hide from our catcher. Whilst running, I remember hearing the excited squeal from one of my friends who caught sight of the catcher, and we immediately ran towards the direction of some trees to hide. There were about 6 of us in the group, and I was running somewhere behind the 3rd or 4th person. It was at this point, when we were running between the trees, that I suddenly felt my neck come into contact with something sharp, but was running too fast to stop. At that time, I felt a strong force pushing me backwards, and I could feel myself flying through the air, and then losing consciousness as I fell backwards and my head hit the ground. When I came to, my friends were crowded around me and asked if I was okay. In a daze, I said yes, and merely requested to go back to the main group to rest. I remember walking back to our tables in a stupor, and when I emerged from the trees and was within sight, one of my friends sitting at the table looked over at me and screamed, and suddenly several people came running over and asked what happened. Unbeknownst to me, my neck was a complete mess, and blood was trickling steadily down and staining my white top. I touched my neck gingerly to check what the fuss was about, only to find my hand covered in blood. Perhaps still in shock from the ordeal, I honestly felt no pain. One of the older siblings quickly grabbed a t-shirt and tried to put pressure and stem the blood, while another ran to get his car to drive me to an ER. On the way there, I contacted my parents, who met me at the hospital and were equally stunned at what they saw. They grilled my friends about the accident, but no one had any answers. I tried my best to reenact the night to them and the doctors in an attempt to shed some light, but could not explain what happened, nor why no one else running before or after me had been cut in the same way as I had. According to the doctor, my injury looked very much like I had been strangled by some barbed wire. But had I just run a couple more inches into it, I would have quite possibly garroted myself to death and certainly not lived to tell this tale. In the following week, some of my friends from that fateful night visited me at home and filled me in on some of the happenings after I had left. They told me that when dawn broke, some of the older siblings did a thorough search in the area where we were running to, and to track down what had nearly ended my life, but failed to. They didn't find any wire or objects that could have led to that disastrous accident. They left saying some prayers in fear they could have offended something within the trees. Till today, I still don't have the faintest inkling about what happened or who pushed me out of the way, but I'm feeling very appreciative for life, as you can probably imagine.